everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you some ground beef recipes that I know that you guys are going to love. I make ground beef recipes all the time. They're like my favorite go-tos. Today I wanted to share with you some different ideas that you can do with ground beef. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we have on our plate this video is going to be some French onion casserole. So I need 10 ounces of egg noodles. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that they're nice and al dente. While that's cooking, I need 1 pound of ground beef and then half an onion, or you can do about a cup of an onion. It just kind of depends on how much onion you guys want and prefer. And then I just went ahead and mixed this together. Make sure all those onions are nice and tender and that the ground beef is nice and cooked through. And then my noodles should be done cooking probably about the same time that the ground beef is done. And so I just went ahead and strained that, put that to the side, and now I have 1 packet of Italian seasoning, and then I'm going to add 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup. I'm just using what I have in my pantry. Of course, I had that 1 can in there for quite a while, so that's why they're not both the same. And then I'm going to use 1 cup of sour cream and then just give that a good stir. And this is going to be pretty thick, so just keep that in mind. And then once all that is stirred together, I went ahead and added our egg noodles right back to the mixture, and then go ahead and give that another good stir. If you wanted to add 2 packets of Italian seasoning, that would be perfectly fine too. I just had the 1 on hand, so I just used the 1. And then once all that's mixed together, I'm going to go ahead and put that in a 9x13 pan. I'm just going to make sure that that's nice and even on top. We're going to add about 1.5 cups of cheddar cheese, about 1.5 cups to 2 cups. Kind of depends on how much cheese that you guys like and enjoy. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I have, it said to only do about 1/2 cup of French onions, but I did not agree with that, so I ended up putting way more than that. And then we're going to put this in the oven at 350 for about 20 to 25 minutes. This is what it looks like after it's all done. I love that the French onions are like super crispy. They are perfect for this. This was a really big hit. My cheese for some reason did not melt. Like the cheese that I bought, I don't know what the problem was. Like it tasted fine. It just was not melting. So I don't know. But I just paired this with a salad, and that is it. That's all that we had for this meal. Casseroles are so good with just having plain old salad. It's totally fine. Next, we're going to be making this Mexican casserole. So to a skillet, I'm going to take my ground beef and go ahead and make sure that that is nice and cooked through. We're also going to add about 1/2 cup of onions. And then I am going to add about 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, and we're going to go ahead and give that another good stir. Okay, once that's done cooking, I'm just going to go ahead and drain off any excess grease and bring my skillet right back to my oven. And then I'm going to add about 1 ounce of taco seasoning, 1 can of corn, 1 can of black beans, and then about 16 ounces of salsa. So I don't put like the whole thing because I believe that one was an 18-ounce jar. And then for right now, I'm just going to add about 1 cup of, you can do whatever type of cheese. Usually for Mexican dishes, I'm going to add like the Fiesta or the Mexican style. And then we're going to need 1 cup of rice. You can do whatever type of rice. The recipe did call for instant rice, and I think that probably would work a little bit better, but I don't cook with instant rice, and I just had regular rice. And it turned out fine. So if you're worried that you don't have instant rice, it's fine. It turned out just fine with just regular rice. So now to my 9x13 pan, I am going to put this at the very bottom, make sure everything is nice and even. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 cups of broth. This is just chicken broth, but I think beef broth would work perfectly fine too. I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes. It takes a little bit for that rice to get all the way cooked through. And so right now I'm just kind of stirring it together because I want to make sure that that rice is going to get cooked evenly. And so my rice is almost done here, but I'm just going to top it with some cheddar cheese and let this cook for another 10 minutes. And then once the 10 minutes were up, the rice was fully cooked and the cheese was melted and everything was good to go. So if you're worried that the rice isn't going to get cooked through, it definitely is. Just be patient with it. So here I'm just putting it back in for 10 more minutes, and this is what it looks like after it's done. This was a huge hit, and I actually really enjoyed just like eating every bite with like some chips, like dipping it as if it was like some type of dip. It was so good that way. I don't know what it was, but it was really delicious. And then we had this, like what I'm saying, we had it with some chips and dip, and that's all. This was a delicious casserole. It fed a lot. Like we had lots of leftovers. So this was a delicious and hearty meal. Up next, I'm considering this a decadent poor man casserole. So the first thing we're going to do is about 10 to 12 ounces of egg noodles, and you're just going to make sure that that is nice and al dente. I'm just giving it a good stir, and then I'm going to put that off to the side. Next, I have a pound of ground beef. We're just going to cook that up, and then we are also going to cook it up with a little bit of onions, about a cup worth. Throw that into the mix, and if you want to add some garlic, that's good too. I just did about a tablespoon. Give that a good stir and just make sure that those onions gets cooked up with that grease so that it gets nice and tender. And then I have, once everything's cooked, I have 1 can of diced tomatoes, and then I have a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, and I do end up using the whole can. I just used a little bit like what the recipe said, and then I end up using the rest later. I did a can of corn, and then I did about a cup of cheese, giving that a good stir. I'm going to add our egg noodles to the mixture, giving that another good stir as well. Okay, and I didn't do this, but it definitely needs some seasoning, so some Italian seasoning would be perfect in this. Oregano, just some salt and pepper would be great too. It just was lacking on the seasonings. I'm not sure why the recipe didn't call for any, and I don't know why I didn't put any in there. I'm just crazy sometimes. So definitely add some seasonings to flavor this bad boy up. I'm just going to smooth this out, make sure it's nice and level, and then I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of cheese right on top of that, just to make sure that we have it nice and cheesy. I cannot make a casserole with it not being cheesy. I can't do that. Casseroles have to have cheese on top, absolutely. I put this in the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes. You just basically want to make sure that the cheese is nice and melted. And look how delicious this is. So, so good. I actually just paired it with some bread and called it good. Some days I'm feeling extra fancy and making like a nice little salad and some sides and some bread, but today it was just one of those days where I was in a hurry, so we just had some bread, and that's totally fine. And so I consider this a poor man meal just because the noodles are super inexpensive. The only thing that's expensive with this is probably just the meat. You can always do different types of meat to make it cheaper. Next, I'm making a Hashbrown Casserole. So we need 1 pound of ground beef, and we're just going to cook that up. All right, and then I have about 1/2 cup of onions I'm going to cook the ground beef with as well, giving that another good stir. All right, now that that is all cooked through, I'm just going to drain off any excess grease, and I'm just going to put that to the side. In a large bowl, I have 1 cup of sour cream. I also have 4 tablespoons of butter that I'm going to put at the very bottom of that bowl. And then I have 1 can of cream of chicken soup, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, giving that a really good stir, getting all that mixed through properly. All right, and then I have a whole bag of hash browns, so about 28-ish ounces. So I'm trying to put that in this bowl and getting that well combined. All right, and then we have some cheese. I just did half of it right here. So this is about a cup's worth of cheddar cheese that I'm just going to stir in with my hash browns and my sour cream mixture. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my ground beef mixture and try my very best to put that into this bowl and to stir that all together. I love using these bowls just because of the handles, but I just probably should have used a much bigger bowl. But they are my favorite bowls. They are amazing. I wish they had bigger ones that were bigger than this one because I just love them so much. I have my 9x13 pan. I did go ahead and grease that because the hash browns will stick to the bottom of this. So you definitely want to make sure that you spray your pan. I'm making sure it's nice and level. And of course, we're going to add our remaining cheese because, like I said before, you cannot have a casserole without that cheese. You can make this as cheesy as you want or not as cheesy if you don't really like cheese or you have an intolerance to cheese. That's totally fine too. Go ahead and put this in the oven at 375 for about 45 minutes. This is what it'll look like. And this is the same cheese that just did not melt well. So I don't know what the deal is, but this was delicious. My kids were raving about it. They love this one the most out of all that I made in this video. They loved this dish and it's super easy to make. I just paired it with a biscuit and some corn. I thought that was pretty simple. You can also do like a side salad, whatever is your preference. This one was a huge hit. Okay, for the last one, we're making this quick and easy Bisquick bake. So I need 1 pound of ground beef, and then we need about a half of an onion. I'm gonna go ahead and cook that all together. Get that nice and cooked through. Make sure those onions get soaked in with that grease. All right, make sure that there is no excess grease, and then I'm going to add an ounce of taco seasoning, about half of a teaspoon of cumin, half of a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then I'm going to add 1/4 cup of salsa and then 1 can of corn. Also going to add half of a can of tomato sauce and then give that a good stir. I ended up using the rest of that tomato sauce anyways, just because I felt like it needed it. I'm also going to add a can of black beans, giving that all a really good stir, getting that all combined really well, and just let it come to just a slight simmer and then take it off the heat. To a mixing bowl, I have 1 cup of Bisquick, 1/3 cup of milk, and then 1 egg. And then just go ahead and give that a good stir. Go ahead and put that off to the side. Get a 9x13 pan and just make sure that you do go ahead and lightly grease that. Add that ground beef mixture all to the bottom of that 9x13 pan. Go ahead and smooth all that out so it's nice and level. And then we're just going to go ahead and put that Bisquick mixture right on top of our Mexican dish there. And I just smoothed it out, make sure it was nice and even. And then we have 1 cup of cheese that we're going to put right on top of that. And I just want to make sure that that is nice and even as well. If you want to add more cheese, that's totally fine. I did kind of feel like the 1 cup was just enough. I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 for about 40 minutes until that Bisquick is nice and cooked through in the middle. I always want to make sure and kind of poke at it just to make sure that is nice and cooked through in the middle, because sometimes it gets a little doughy, so you just really want to make sure and check on that. And then here is what it looks like after it's all done. So good. I love Mexican dishes. I love Bisquick dishes. They're so easy to make, so convenient. I usually have Bisquick on hand anyway, so I really enjoy this dish. It was super easy. You can pair it with a salad. You can just have it with this, but really some chips and salsa is what it really needs, because that's what's going to make it even more phenomenal. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you do enjoy this type of content, go ahead and give me a big thumbs up. Consider subscribing below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.